So how was it today in DC? You guys, what did you see?
Never seen anything like we saw today. You know what I'm saying? I said to be 100,000 people. There was probably like 150,000. Maybe it was. Let me move this a little bit closer to Fee so she can be seen. Just craziness. We got up close to the steps of the Capitol. Johnny gets right in there. He wanted to follow Johnny Adventurous, but we, rubber bullets, the beanbags, all the yards.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, there's no tear gas, blah blah blah." No, there is.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's obviously been to those people, the Trump supporters, but there was people. We got tear gas. I mean, we were there. We got tear gas. And normally when we cover protests and when we cover these things, we have like our masks and we have our equipment. Obviously, we're in DC. We don't have any of that stuff. I didn't think that was necessarily going to get that bad, like the way it got. I mean, there were so many people. I have never seen that many people ever in my life.
Really? Say, Graham?
I said you should have called me first because I told you it's a matter of time before the Trump supporters who think the cops aren't going to turn on them are naive, and they maybe learned to listen today. Because the cops protect them and they protect white nationalists, and they would have been 10 times more violent had there been 100,000 Black Lives Matter people trying to take over the Capitol building today without a shadow of a doubt. But the fact that you say that it did happen, you were shot with rubber bullets and all that. And did you see a lot of people with weapons like in the protest, like carrying guns?
No. Listen, the majority of the protesters that there were like just everyday Americans from across the country. We saw aunts, uncles, grandparents, old people, babies, the whole nine yards.
It was a mix.
A lot of Chinese Americans, people of color. I mean,
what was it? It was like the anti-Chinese Communist Party people.
The Chinese Americans for Trump. There was a lot of them. They were filling the streets. And then, of course, we saw those people who looked like they were dressed to rock and roll and party. And those are the ones who pushed to the front of the Capitol building. You know what I'm saying? Started pushing onward.
With helmets and rubber or bulletproof vests.
Those kind of things.
Yeah, they were the ones that going up the scaffolds.
Yeah.
And they were the ones that were, ready to be in the front lines. And they started pushing the barricades, right? And we have seen this happen too in Portland and in LA when we covered the protests. Moving the barricade isn't violence. I didn't really see violence. I saw people getting a little bit confrontational with the cops, the same way I've seen the BLM protesters who were just shouting at cops. I saw that. And I find it ironic too, because this could have been us. This could have been the left storming the Capitol for a stimulus. This could have been the left storming the Capitol for Medicare for All, for force the vote. Instead, we had 50 people for Assange. No, the left didn't do it, and now the right did it. And I'm not trying to incite violence and trying to say we need to get violent, but come on, where is that revolution? Where is that hashtag general strike that was trending on Twitter? People were so more concerned with Jimmy Dore's curse words and Jimmy Dore's rhetoric than actually coming out here and supporting these actions. And yet a few days later, we see these Trump supporters going to, some of them were going for Trump. Some of them were going for the force the vote, for the Stop the Steal rally. Yeah. And some of them were just there like they were fans of Trump. But whatever it is, and as much as I don't agree with their ideology, the fact that people were out there in mass numbers, I mean, at least 100,000 people. I've seen a lot of people at Bernie's rallies. We've seen those thousands of people. This was much more. And if we had those great numbers on the left, on the populist left, whatever you want to call it, think what we could do. Think what we could get. Yes, we would get backlash, but it's absolutely worth it. And now that this has happened, now the left can hopefully be like, okay, maybe we could learn something, right? And hopefully the right can stop thinking that the police are their friends and that the empire isn't going to use the police to also go after them, right?
Yeah. That's the thing, that the arm of the empire. They're going to go after, they have a new boss coming in, they think. So it's now they've turned their attention. Hey, listen, the lady got right in the neck. She got shot with a rubber bullet. She went down. She was bleeding all over the place. This was right inside the Capitol doors.
It was a real gun.
Was it a real gun?
It was live rounds.
It was live rounds right in the neck. And, you know what I'm saying? We saw a lady get beat up yesterday. Her face was bleeding, whatnot. So, I mean, it's, we've said this before. No matter what, Graham, I'm not here to argue that the elections were rigged. They weren't rigged. There's such a lack of transparency and the structure of our elections. If we don't get it fixed, more shit like this is going to continue to happen. It could have happened with Bernie Sanders when he was cheated twice and stuff like that. But we have to fix the framework moving forward. You know what I'm saying? I came out here to educate people on the framework, not concentrate on Biden or Trump. We do have to fix our elections. We shouldn't have proprietary software in any of our public funded elections. And in 99% of the tabulation machines, they exist. You know what I'm saying? We have to tighten up our elections, make sure they reflect the will of the people, and be as transparent as can be. Because whether it did happen or it didn't happen, there's such a lack of transparency. Oh, the only thing that matters is that they feel that they were cheated. Okay, and the fact that they feel that they were cheated, and we don't have the mechanism to say, "Hey, look, no, it's legit," and we don't have that in place. We don't have audits in place. We don't have public accounting in place. It's just going to keep biting us in the ass, and more stuff like this is going to happen.
Yeah, well, you guys have taken a lot of heat. You came on my show. I didn't agree with you for the most part, and but I, and I know earlier today. Jordan was I didn't watch it, but I heard about it. Jordan Sheridan at Status Quo was calling you guys out. So what do you think about that in terms of you want to get election integrity, which I respect, but then you've said some stuff that a lot of people view as you're siding with Trump, who incited this riot today. And, even somebody like Jack Posobiec, who has a pretty horrible record. I mean, everything you just said, I really agree and respond with, but some of that other stuff I have to ask if you're going to come on the show. I have to ask this. So how do you respond to that? Because
I don't understand how I could be all powerful, how we could be all powerful to incite a civil war. I mean, accusations like that are extremely ridiculous. Yeah. The fact that election integrity is one of the most unpopular subjects. I mean, you look at Assange and you look at how unpopular that is. Election integrity is even more unpopular. Like, you get so much crap for even talking about it. And Johnny has written multiple articles on what's going on in California and how progressives are being cheated by the California Democratic Party. I can't for myself bring to think how you can rationalize the fact that Bernie Sanders was cheated twice, the fact that the Democratic Party admitted that they can rig elections, and then all of a sudden think that Democrats are simply going to stop doing it when it's convenient for them. It's ridiculous to think that our elections are fair, even if you don't feel like there's enough evidence, which we'll never know if there is or isn't, because we can't look into these machines and we follow this. I mean, like I've said before, our work has been used by actual professors to teach people about the faultiness of our election system, and we literally follow the ballots. Even before Bernie Sanders ran in the primary election, we were talking about how the machines were faulty, how they didn't pass the standards of testing, how the barcodes weren't really registering with people's the code, the QR code, that, like, I took my envelope and it wasn't even finding me. They had all these issues. While voter suppression is a huge issue that also happens, and we've been privy to it. We saw it with what happened with Bernie in the long line, 7 hours of waiting, and people getting thrown off the voter rolls. The voter rolls themselves aren't consistent. And that has nothing to do with me liking Trump. I can't stand Trump. I'm far to the left of the people accusing me of bullshit. I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I never told people we need to mitigate damage and vote for the lesser of evils. So no, that doesn't roll with me. And Pasta is who'd you vote for? Gloria Riva. So to say that we're siding with Trump because we want election integrity across the board is ridiculous. And to say that we're at fault for being one of the only two channels that talked about election integrity from the left, and who think that there was something wrong with this election, not because we like Trump, but because we literally noticed the same pattern with Bernie that we did with Trump. And of course, it's so easy to dismiss it because we dislike Donald Trump, but that's why we got so much backlash, because people didn't even look into it. I can tell when somebody doesn't know what they're talking about when they talk about elections, because we study these elections. We go and we read these cases. Johnny's over there. We had Raji Rav on in California. You should check him out. He is a progressive who ran against Brad Sherman and who claims that he was cheated. And he has provided enough evidence that they're taking his case. They're spending money by hiring these private lawyers to go after this guy.
Outside litigation from the state's attorneys out there. Yeah,
this is supposed to be public, but they're hiring outside litigation. And we have people like Maria Estrada, Angelica Duenas, who over there are saying there's no transparency in our elections. So we care about election integrity across the board. Do I think that, that I think a violent, and I don't think this was violent, but do I think violence is the best way to do it? No. I think it would have been nice to hear the electoral process and to go through this thing. Do I think Trump is going to give us election integrity? No, I don't think that Trump and Republicans actually want the truth. I don't think the establishment wants the truth. I think the only people who want fairness are the people on the ground. Now, do I agree with their ideology? No, I don't. But what I care about is that regardless of whether it's Trump or Biden, and it looks like it's going to be Biden, when we run a progressive, whether you want to run them as a third party and MPP, you're going to run into the same issues that the whole system has played progressives against. There's a reason why we had Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. It's because the Democratic establishment did everything they could to oust the progressive, and Mitch McConnell won. And so we can't continue doing this and pretending that we have democracy in this country when we know we live in an oligarchy. Our government overthrows governments all over the world. This country is an empire, and we overthrow democratically elected leaders all over the fucking world. And you expect me to believe that somehow our elections are fair and free? Bush versus Gore, were those elections fair? No, they weren't. Nobody's saying it's just the Democrats. It's both. It is a bipartisan practice. We can only prove statistical anomalies. We can only prove what software developers say. We can only prove that we can't look into these machines, that we don't have audits. Nobody can prove that it's not happening either. So all we want is a transparency in our elections. And you can disagree with us, but you can't for 100% certainty say that it's not happening. And believe me, when it happens to the next progressive, we'll be right here talking about the same thing, because that's what we care about. It doesn't matter. It's across the board.
And I want to say thank you, Graham, because even though you disagree with us, and I said this to Lee Camp when we interviewed him the other day, I said, thank you for at least not minimizing and mocking it. You know what I'm saying? You disagree with us, but you don't minimize and mock it like some of the other people have done. And that really does, I think, hurt the movement to get fair, free, and transparent elections. And, Lee was talking about a lot of things, and I was disagreeing with him. And he even told me before the interview, he goes, Pasta, I'm not going to knock it and stuff and say, like, it's completely, not rigged or whatnot, because he knows our election system across the board is terrible. It's awful. And we know this and stuff. And secondly, the articles that I have written, I wrote one article, and it was about suppression, voter suppression at the actual polls. And that's something that somebody talks about all the time. Oh, it's the voter suppression. That's the big issue. That's the only article I wrote, and stuff like that. But we can't ignore the other things that we have to talk about. And simply, Graham, if somebody has proven to us that they can cheat, right, and they said they can cheat, wouldn't we want to check their work? Wouldn't we just want to look into their work and say, okay, let's double check their work to make sure it's okay? We don't even get that. Raji Rob was fighting today for simple logs and transparency. And every single step of the way, whether it be Maria Estrada, who's done so many requests for data information, that's our data and information, we never get it. They never let us see it. Why? What are they hiding? And I'm so sick and tired of people saying, well, where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? There's plenty of evidence to say, hey, we have to look at this. Why hasn't there been one third party independent forensic audit in these states, these 6 states? They'll never let it happen, because they know if they do, we'll find out what's what. What are they hiding? You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's just a fight to get these elections straight, clean, and clear. And I think it was a big misstep by the left and some people for not saying, okay, hey, we have to look at this stuff. We have to make sure there's certainty on every single election we do.
It should have been Bernie.
Bernie should have done this, because let me tell you something. We've talked to people, and we've talked to software developers. I talked to a software guy he's a whistleblower in freaking Mexico, because that's where he's got asylum. And he told me during the 2008 election, or excuse me, 2012 election, he was flipping votes in Florida while hanging out at a cafe in Canada. Okay, that's what he told me. This guy's a big guy. I'm gonna have an interview with this guy. We're setting it up. So all we're saying is we're just looking for some transparency here. Sorry, Graham. Go ahead.
All right. No,
I saw the hand.
I saw. I appreciate that.
I saw the hands. We're passionate about it.
Yeah, I get that, and I respect that. I have a couple questions, and then I want to get back to what happened today. So my one question is, yes, the Democrats cheat. I'm sure they cheated. The Republicans shut down polling places in Texas. They had to go to the Texas Supreme Court. So both parties cheat. It's pretty obvious. the question that I have about this specific election, and I agree with all of like, we need more transparency and we have a completely rigged system anyway. I would argue it's easier to rig your own primary than it is in a general. That's what I would argue. And again, I didn't vote for Joe Biden either. Trump, as evidenced by today, is a little bit more of an evil piece of shit. Now, I hope the left, I agree that I hope the left would like rally and take these kind of big actions for, you know, the right. I mean, the right protests for dumb crap most of the time. They took over a Capitol or whatever in Michigan because they wanted fucking haircuts. And you could say, well, they were protesting for a legitimate thing today, election integrity, and they view that the election was stolen and they're fighting for that. But they're in love with it's a cult. The Trump thing is a cult. The vote any blue will do people are very culty as well. But I want to ask you this question. With all this fraud and all this evidence that you have uncovered, how did Donald Trump get more votes in 2020 than he did in 2016?
You want to go first?
Yeah, well, I mean, people just really liked what he was all about. I think the reason why he got more votes in 2020 than he did in 2016 is a lot of independents really saw the hypocrisy of Russiagate and what the establishment was trying to do, and that really pushed them to go, hey,
how did he, if all this corruption, he still got more votes 4 years later? So,
you're talking about how did he get more votes and then Biden still won and got more votes than that?
Yes. So that's
I know how you feel.
Right. No. I was going to say, well, that it's not that Trump. You're right. He increased his votes with Black Americans. He increased his support with Latinos. That is exactly in itself a red alarm as to how did that happen? How did Joe Biden get 10 million more votes than Barack Obama? That's what we're saying. We're talking about massive election fraud, and it sounds like crazy. It's when you look at it like that. You know, we were watching the election results come in. We're like, oh, okay, it looks like Trump's going to win this. Okay, that's it. And we're watching. All of a sudden, you get like $100,000 or 100,000 more votes than for Joe Biden. All of a sudden, just only for Joe Biden. Well, how does that happen? Well, Graham, we were talking about the ballot harvesting for a while, how that's not okay. That's been used against progressives in California so easily. Vote by mail, because of COVID, there was no checking these mail-in ballots. There was no way to check them. Even if you do a recount, you're not actually opening the ballot. You're not actually looking at it. So of course they're going to count them and it's going to have the same result. There is no transparency. Johnny followed these mail-in ballots at the local level in Los Angeles, and there is no procedure to where there's security as to who's transporting them, where they're going them. There's no chain of custody.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'll answer that. Go ahead, Graham.
Hold on. So this is the point I'm making. The question, and you came to a conclusion early on, there's no way Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Obama. So that to me is a mistake, because you're working backwards in terms of you came to a conclusion and then work backwards to find evidence, right? Because the answer, hold on. I'm giving you guys a lot of time on my show. So hold on here. So, I ask you, how did Trump get more votes? And you said, well, he just reached out to these people and he got more votes, more independent. So you're saying all of his votes are legit, but Biden's aren't. See, that's a problem right there, because if you're saying I agree with you, we need more transparency. The whole system is rigged. You're trying to tell me that the Republicans didn't cheat. All of Donald Trump's votes are legit, but Biden's aren't. That's the problem I have. Because hold on. Obama never ran in a pandemic. This has never happened in 100 years. Did we have an election like this? I've been voting since 1988. I have never seen a get out the vote campaign like this in my entire life. Even Obama's, they put a big out the vote in Bill Clinton when he ran in 92. MTV did rock the vote and all this other nonsense. I've never seen a get out the vote thing like this in my entire life. And those elections didn't have, even Obama, maybe his second one, but his first one didn't have the social media push the way this one. I've never seen everyone's at home. Everyone's paying attention more than they've ever paid attention. Whether they're paying attention with good information or bad is not the point. More people were paying attention. More people who never voted have said they voted. So if you're going to say you need more integrity, then you have to say some of Donald Trump's votes are cheated, were fraudulent too. You can't just say he got more votes than he did 4 years ago. They're all legit. Just more blacks and independents voted for him and more Latinos, but Joe Biden's are all fake. That doesn't stand the test to your own conclusions that you come up with.
Well, let me say this much. There's several ways to cheat an election. Sometimes you do it by suppression. Sometimes you do it by ballot stuffing. Okay. And the Democrats in these states, the Secretary of States and the governors that changed the laws unconstitutionally, okay, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, whatnot, they sent out an enormous amount of ballots that just didn't land on somebody's plate. In other words, they either moved, they either died, whatnot like that. So what they did was stuff the ballot box this time out as far as suppressing a vote.
What do you mean by stuff the ballot?
Well, you got all these ballots that are sent out because everybody on the voter roll gets a ballot, right? Even though you unconstitutionally do it. For instance, in Pennsylvania, the legislative bodies didn't change their rule. The Secretary of State, along with election officials, they changed that rule, and the governor okayed it. Okay, so now you send out all these ballots. Now let's say 80% of your ballots get to the place they have to get to, right? And the other 20% get sent back. Now you have an enormous amount of ballots out there that can be given to any nefarious character, and then they can be brought in at any time. So it's the fact that when the counts came in, when they did in the middle of the night, those mathematical anomalies we talk about, because voting always has a pattern. And remember when we told you, like, when they called an election for Joe Biden in the primary for Michigan, they call it at 55%. You know, I'll do my Chris Wallace here, 55% of the vote in. We're going to call it for Joe Biden right now. And people go, wait a second, we're still online. People still haven't voted. How can they call this right now? Well, they have that voting pattern. They have that block where they have the information and the data to say, well, listen, the way the voting pattern's coming in, okay, there's no way that Bernie can catch Biden. You know what I'm saying? And we've showed these anomalies when it comes to, like, the percentage of votes, how they come in Texas, whatnot, and that primary. We're saying, wait a second, Bernie Sanders is gaining 1,000 more votes per percentage point than Joe Biden, up to 40%. Now here comes Joe Biden, right? And he, from 40 to 60%, he blows Bernie out of the water. And every 1% of that vote, he's gaining 4,000 more votes. Mathematical anomalies, statisticians, they like something's wrong here. They pattern these things out and they say, wait, there's something that's wrong here. There's something that's not right that's going on. So when you say there's two different ways to fix an election, you can either suppress a vote, like they did for Bernie Sanders, let's say Arizona 2016, when they called 75% of the polling places like that, that's going to suppress Bernie Sanders' vote. 2020 primary in California.
Shut down polling places in Black and Latino neighborhoods, as they just did in November.
Yes. Yeah. In Arizona, they shut down 75% of the polling places, period. Because let me tell you something, in California, when they suppress the vote too, it's not just black and white people, black and brown people, excuse me. You're talking about that late.
I lost your sound. I lost you.
So, you know, they wanted to shut down the day of voting. Why? Because they know they have the mail-in voting. Because the mail-in voting tends to lean more older, more conservative voters and whatnot. That was completely thrown out the window this time. You know what I'm saying? And it's not just the way the ballots came in. It's the fact that they didn't let the other parties scrutinize those ballots. That they came in at 3 o'clock in the night and they closed the place down and they counted those ballots without the proper supervision. That is against the law. You have to have all the poll watchers from both sides there to scrutinize that ballot, whether you like that law or not, Graham, because you said we should have more Greens, more independents, and I agree with you. But the law is those people have to be there. They kick those people out. And in the middle of the night, you just don't get jumps like that. If you get a jump like that, something is wrong. And at the very least, it should be looked upon. Not to mention, Graham, we keep on talking about Biden couldn't fill 50 people in a room where we were just here and Donald Trump had almost 200,000 people at a rally. You know what I'm saying? The popularity, that's also something to question.
Hold on. We're going to wrap this up soon, but you haven't directly answered my question. How did Donald Trump get more vote? All of his votes, yes or no? You believe all of Donald Trump's votes were legitimate?
You got cut out.
Do you two believe all of Donald Trump's votes in this election in 2020 were legitimate?
Do I believe all of them were legitimate?
No.
Okay.
No. I don't believe all of them were legitimate.
No.
But what we're talking
Most
about
of them.
is the popularity. For instance, we used the same argument when it came to Bernie Sanders versus Joe Biden, right? Like Bernie Sanders was filling stadiums. Joe Biden did it. You say it's an unprecedented election, that COVID has never happened in the last 100 years, right? Since the Spanish flu. This has never happened. Well, what's also never happened is that we haven't voted by mail like this. And the ballot harvesting and the transporting of ballots is also never happened. So, of course, we haven't scrutinized that either. So while we also focus on the machinery and how the numerical numbers, and you can look up fraction magic and you can look up to what all these people have been talking about for decades, not just about Dominion, which became like the right-wing popular thing to talk about, but ESNS, Smartmatic, all these machines. And Whitney Webb did show the connections of these machines to these Democratic donors who were also very, 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 very much pro-Biden. Some of them did donate to Donald Trump as well, but the vast majority of their money went to Joe Biden. The tech industry was heavily involved. And you can look into even regardless of the election, Graham, how people from the very, very fucking beginning, the mainstream media, the technocrats, Twitter, Facebook, were all suppressing any information about Joe Biden that could have potentially influenced people in a different way. That in itself shows me that our election system is fraudulent, because that should be illegal. They shouldn't be suppressing information. They shouldn't be censoring Trump's tweets. They shouldn't be censoring anybody's fucking tweets. So even from that, even if you don't want to believe that there was enough evidence to prove that Donald Trump was cheated, that's fine. But there's enough evidence to say, wait a minute, we need to actually have some sort of transparency in our elections, because I can't trust these results. And those people, whether they're right or wrong, feel they're right and feel like they were wrong. And there is enough doubt cast in our elections, not just because of what we experienced with Bernie Sanders, but because of what they've admitted themselves, and because of what the state of the climate that we're in. There is no way for me to 100% tell you, oh, yes, we were 100%. The elections were 100% rigged, because I can't look into these elections, into these machines. So again, I go back to, you can't prove that it wasn't as much as we can't prove that it was, because we can't look into these machines. And the fact that we can't look into these machines already tells you there's obviously something that these people are hiding. Yeah,
we could agree that the system needs to be more transparent, but I mean, did Biden cheat and that's how he won? Maybe, but again, there's not, and some of the other reasons, like the empty arenas and all that stuff, those are valid things to bring up. Those are valid things to bring up.
Yes.
The other things, so those are all wild cards. Like when COVID hit, everybody left big cities. How did Arizona turn blue after all these years? Well, I know a bunch of people that left California and went to Arizona. Why did Joe Biden, who nobody was excited about Joe Biden? You're right. No one's excited about Joe Biden, but Trump mishandled COVID. I said in the summer, if Trump handles COVID correctly, he's going to get reelected. The only thing that would screw it up, because Biden is so shitty, is if he really screws over COVID. That's doesn't undermine any of the stuff that you guys have talked about in terms of election integrity, but that is a reason to factor in is to how Joe Biden got more votes. Yep. Because if you're telling me there's no way Biden's vote count is accurate, but then there's no way Trump's vote count is accurate. So yes, let's get more election integrity, but to me, and I'm done talking about this. I appreciate your guys' time, because I feel like I'm going into a circular conversation.
No, you are.
I hate getting into circular conversations, because I don't give a fuck. I'm glad Trump's gone. I hope they all die from COVID, quite honestly. They're all bags of shit. And I hope the country unifies, that they're in class warfare and wakes the fuck up, because the Trump supporters are crazy cultists. The Vote Any Blue people are crazy cultists. America has literally gone insane. And when you talk to people from other countries, they're like, you guys are out of your fucking minds. You protest about the dumbest shit. Like you can't get people to show up for forced to vote, but you can get them to show up for Trump. Like you cannot argue with any Trump supporter. You just can't. You give him facts. He lies. No, he doesn't. He never lies. They are beyond reproach. And so are the Vote Any Blue will do people. They're beyond reproach. You can't have a conversation with them. You can't even listen to facts. I tell people, Obama dropped more bombs than Bush. Yeah, but there's always okay. So America is a delusional death cult with a bunch of subsects of lunatics. And well, as I said, it's like an addict. And some addicts you can have interventions with and they'll get sober. And some addicts, you have 3 or 4 or 5 interventions, and they're never going to get it. And how people treated Jimmy they're never going to get it. And so once you have an addict, sometimes you got to just let them fucking die. Like they're going to nosedive, they're going to OD. And maybe if they wake up, blowing a hooker or something like that for crack money, maybe they'll have a moment of clarity. Some won't. Some are going to just die, and America might be going all under. It might be time to say goodbye to America. I don't know. But I appreciate your guys' time.
Brent, will you give me 5 minutes just to answer your question?
Sure. Jimmy's
It's
go ahead.
I'll be done at 1:52. All right. So I believe that you were asking more about the technical aspect of how Trump actually got more votes, right? Or how Biden got more votes, right?
Well, my question is, how did Trump get more votes than 4 years ago? So if he got more votes than he did in 2016, total votes, he got more total votes than he did in 2016, then you can't, to me, the question is like, if not all of his votes are valid, then, and not all of Biden's votes are valid, then let's just talk about election integrity rather than Trump got robbed.
Right. No, absolutely. I agree that they both probably got, fake votes, right? Okay. In LA County, I've been there on the ground. I've been there multiple days for this general election. I saw them. They were scanning the machines. I've been following this lawsuit from Raji Rao. They've been, Secretary of State Alex Padilla changed the law that you can start scanning ballots not 10 days before the election, 30 days before the election for this specific election. If you look at election code 15101B, they added 2 clauses, 1 and 2, which specifically reference for the November 3rd, 2020 general election. We are now going to be scanning ballots 30, election officials are allowed to scan ballots 30 days before the election. Okay. Mail-in ballots were sent out to every Californian in the state. Los Angeles is the largest county in America and the 5th largest economy in the world. Can they run a fair election? My research on the ground right now, if you look at both of my Medium articles, I have 2 Medium articles. One is on the lack of transparency that I experienced, and Angelica Duenas and Maria Estrada have experienced in Los Angeles. The second one is the most recent legal battle between Raji and Dean Logan, Alex Padilla, and the LA Board of Supervisors who are on the lawsuit. Raji's main claim is that the machines, which were over $300 million of LA taxpayer monies that were purchased, not only scan the ballots, but as soon as you scan the ballots, you get the vote count. Okay? So then it scans the ballot, it takes the ballot image, it turns into a cast vote record, and then the voter intent is decoded. And then it gets stored into a server, and then back in the primary, I saw there were Ethernet cables attached to where they released the vote count. You can see that on my Twitter at Jonathan Mayorka. Now, the machines are 2 and 1, and we're just supposed to trust that Dean Logan, who has a history of fraud in Washington in King County, look up his name, Dean Logan, King County, Google it, and you'll see that he got kicked out of there. He got hired in Los Angeles. Not only did he cheat Bernie Sanders, he cheated progressives, not only in the primary, but also in the general. I believe Angelica Duenas won. She should be in Congress right now. She decided not to file a lawsuit. Maria Estrada won. She beat Anthony Rendon. It's progressives who are getting affected by the election integrity. And when people like Jordan Sheridan just dismiss it completely, it's like, what the hell? Progressives are being affected by this as well. Have them on the show to talk about it. Maria Estrada has filed a lawsuit now, and so has Elizabeth Castillo. So that's my 5 minutes. I have 20 seconds left. I'm just going to say that read my Medium articles. I mean, there's evidence there. Raji has two computer science experts with 20 plus years of experience willing to who have already put a statement in his second amended writ and are willing to testify in court, risk their 20 years of experience to say that there's access. And if there's access, there's fraud, because the whole election has to be thrown out because we're just supposed to trust that Dean Logan, who has a history of corruption, didn't access them. Also, they hired a private law firm. Okay, cool.
Great. I agree with
Thanks.
all that. And if the Democrats cheat like that, so are the Republicans. So
They do.
It's the establishment.
It's not in a
We're giving it,
Republican
like,
state.
saying-
Otherwise, I would be on the ground in a Republican state to see that. I'm sure they do it as well.
Yeah.
And from my knowledge on the ground, in California, in the largest county in America, in the 5th largest economy in the world, there's a lack of transparency in the elections. And if there's a lack of transparency in that election, where else is the rest of the country?
right. Everyone's getting cheated.
Everyone's getting cheated.
Hey,
That should be the
gotta
crux
love
of your
Johnny
argument, not Trump got cheated. You should just make that the crux of your argument.
we're not
Might
talking
be
about
too
that
late for
anymore.
that.
Listen,
But
I just want to say that somebody the other day, yesterday, said, "Oh, I don't know about that Graham Elwood. I don't know. I don't trust him that much." And I was like, "Dude, Graham Elwood is one of the fucking greatest guys I know on this planet. He's got nothing but love. Go watch Earbuds. All he does is lift people up. He gives them confidence. We wouldn't have had this show if you didn't give us the confidence to come do this. So I appreciate you always being Graham Elwood, the Silver Surfer, who gave his life so that humanity can thrive and live. And I always love you, and I appreciate you letting me come on your show and bust your balls about this whole situation." You're looking fit, big kale. They're keeping you nice and look at it.
Look what Big Kale does, baby. Look
How
at
about
Big
that
Kale
Bitcoin?
pays for these
How about
vegan
that ring token?
Oh, dude, invest in crypto, folks. That's the real way to get out of this. Well, I appreciate the work, and I appreciate you being willing to listen to me, disagree with you. And I agree. We need election integrity. That's what I would agree with. And as a friend note, I would distance myself from people like Jack Posobiec. That's all I'm going to tell you. You can take that, leave it, do it what you want with it.
I'm not friends with Jack.
I'm just
I've never
saying.
been friends with
just
Jack.
saying.
Yeah.
Don't be retweeting Pope like that's just, you don't want that around your neck. Just stick to your election integrity. That's just my opinion as a friend and as a colleague.
Look. Well, Fiorella, you got Fiorella fired
We're
up.
not friends with Jack.
Okay.
I know where you're getting that. I've never met that guy in my life. So
All right.
I don't know where that's from,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we're not friends with him.
He let Nico go on a show and talk about reparations.
But I'm not
so,
Nico,
you know.
and neither is he. So
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
separate from us.
Did I
All right.
retweet something from him? I might have retweeted something.
One of you guys
I would
retweet
never.
stuff. So that was
Maybe I'll watch my step, Graham. Thank you so much.
all right.
I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate your work, and thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for being in the streets today covering this. And I appreciate you guys have been at a lot of protests. You've been shot at. You've been gassed at all kinds of anti-war protests and Black Lives Matter protests. So anybody out there watching that, even if they still don't agree with the Convo Couch folks, that's fine. They've gone in the street. They've been fucking shot at for Black Lives Matter. They've been tear gassed. So I'm just telling you, they deserve your respect, and you can respectfully disagree with people.
Yeah.
Unless you're TYT, then fuck them. They're sellouts. But so all right, you
We're
guys.
talking about that shit. How long did you guys hang on to those assholes? We were telling you to ditch those jerk offs months ago.
I know,
Years ago,
man.
we told you about them.
I'm telling you, I held my tongue. I held my tongue on them for years, and this past couple months, I couldn't do it anymore. And I did it out of respect because Jimmy held his tongue and he said, "Graham, I said, "Fine, man," and I let it go. And then I couldn't anymore, and I feel free. So, and that's why I'm in my show doing whatever the fuck I want with my vegan guns, whenever and however. So, Big Kale. I'm just a puppet of Big Kale, so I do whatever they tell me to do. So, all right. Thank you guys so much for being on the show, and stay safe when you're on the streets out there, kids. I worry about you. Uncle Graham worries about you, so stay safe. All
Today
right.
was crazy, man. Today was nuts.
Tell Johnny
You
not
guys-
to go into the belly of the beast.
Yeah, you got to tell Johnny. We got to run after Johnny because Johnny's running ahead. I'm running to grab him back, and he's running into the fire. This guy.
There's going to be more, unfortunately, and I hope I'm wrong. There's going to be gunfire at these things as it gets worse. So be careful.
Yeah.
It ain't going to be tear gas and rubber bullets. It's going to be a firefight. So this is me, has been in war zones, and this is no joke. Okay.
Okay.
Got you,
All right.
brother. We love you.
We love you, Graham.
Love you
Thank so
too.
much.
Stay safe. Big
Peace.
sale 2024.
Bye, Graham.
You're the best, Graham.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at GrahamElwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.